Thanks for staying with us. So, the Senate President, Right Honorable Senator Godswill Akpabio, has been trending for the past couple of days for various reasons. Let's start with the minimum wage one, where he said that if you're a tailor and you employ additional hands, you can't pay the person below 70,000 naira. If you have a house help, you cannot pay them below 70,000 naira. If you hire a driver or a gate man, you cannot pay them below 70,000 naira. That's the reality of today, because as of yesterday, the new bill has been signed into law. They did it sharp, as we said, it's in paper review. And so from today henceforth, everybody who's working in this country should be paid minimum 70,000 naira. How are you taking this news? Because it affects not just those in public sector, but those of you are running small businesses, those of you having a dispatch rider, those of you having the gatesman, those of you having drivers, those of you having workers in your office, the receptionist, everybody from top down, minimum should be 70,000 naira. How are you taking the news? How are you implementing it in your own various endeavors? You can call the number 081 0764 1679 090 241 63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. So all of us here have people working for us in different capacity, you know, and it's a review that, you know, I know I have the help in the house, and yes, I have reviewed her salary since. It's not yet 70,000, but it's definitely significant because I always consider the fact that feeding is here, you stay resident here, you also have pocket money, you know, so I consider all those things. So in fact, there's a way that we split the money where the one is for herself, because I make sure that she doesn't take all her money, because when I give her all her money, she just gives it to family. I said, this amount of money I'm keeping in a separate account for you that you cannot touch, you don't have access to. This one I give to you for your pocket money. But how are you guys taking it? Because you guys have employees. Let me start with you, Tokwe. 70,000 minimum wage.
The truth is, I think in most establishments, for employees that are having to cover transport fare, it's pretty around that range already, if the person is not an intern or something thereabout. But we already know that state governors are already saying they are struggling with 30,000 naira. So if a state government that is collecting allowance, not allowance, they are collecting money from the FAC account every month, is struggling to pay 30,000 naira, how much more 70,000 naira? I think we need to be realistic. Each business needs to work within sustaining the business so that you don't kill the business to pay the staff. That's important. I'm sure if you say, I want to downsize, the staff will say, pay me what you're paying me, let me have a job, rather than downsizing so that I can then pay everybody a higher salary. So it will have to be domesticated to fit each person per time. Lagos State is a very expensive state to be in. Transportation costs can go as high as 30,000, 40,000 naira in a month. So obviously, if you are in that category, you would have to pay above, you would already be paying above 70K. But for some people, they provide accommodation. I have accommodation in my BQ for staff that they can stay during the week, then go home on weekends. It's a way to reduce transportation cost. Maybe people will start initiating staff bus and things that can help to reduce the cost. But asking companies to pay 70,000 naira, the Senate President was not, you know, he's in a different world and he has a different account balance. He was a governor before. He's always had money, so he cannot understand the heartbeat of regular Nigerians.
How we make excuses when it comes to us. Because the president, for the government, we were carrying placard. We were insisting where everybody was screaming. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about Nigerians generally. But now it has the chicken has come home to roost now. Here now, where it's at our doorstep, individually. It's now we remember that, oh, states cannot even pay. How much more me, small meat, that I only have two Okada riders working for me, for dispatch riders. How would I be paying them 70K per month? Because the reality is that many of us can't. Now, there'll be perks. Because even whether you like it or not, you are not adding all the small 2K here, 3K here. Everything usually adds up to even more than that.
Yes, so
eventually, 1K here, you know, transport money here, it usually ends up, but we never really put that into account. But let me come to you. What are your thoughts on the 70,000?
Yes, well, initially, I'd said that for this law to work, there wasn't going to be one fit all, right? That they needed to take into consideration the public, they needed to distinguish between the public sector and the private sector. Why doing this, take into consideration. Secondly, they need to take into consideration the different budgets for each state and how each state can sustain paying the minimum wage, because we don't want to go back to the era where a state owes a month's salaries and so forth. That's what is going to. That's what's going to happen now. That the states will say, okay, we can pay 30% or 50%, and then we're owing you for months on end, 5 years, 10 years. We've seen all these things happen before. We all live in Nigeria. Then secondly, this is going to also increase unemployment in Nigeria, whether you like it or not. Because most people in the private sector are going to lay off their staff if they cannot afford it. So, and then it's also going to affect productivity within manufacturing or industries if they're not able to sustain these salaries, right? Because you need to, and when you reduce your staff strength, it also reduces productivity within an organization.
You know, while you're talking, I was thinking of something we discussed yesterday. You know, in this country, many of us, we live excessive lifestyle. I know of somebody, not my friend, but somebody that I know of, that has 3 children and employed 3 nannies. Nanny per child. That's because in Nigeria, you can pay them what? 30K, 25K, they're in the house, they're eating, and you just have that liberty. But now that government is saying, per person, you have to pay 70,000. That person who hired 3 nannies will go back home and think about it again. Okay, can I afford to be coughing out this amount of money, 70,000 naira for 3 people per month? Maybe that person will now begin to cut their clothes according to their size, because they realize that maybe 1 nanny would be sufficient. Because usually
the nannies have lost their job. The other nannies have lost their job.
Yeah, the two that have lost their jobs, right?
Unemployment.
But it also reminds, because some of the excessiveness we do here is because of the way labor is cheap. You know, people leave, they carry people here from Nigeria to their abroad because, come on, you're my nanny in Nigeria, let me do visa for you. Come, because when you get to America, I'll be giving you $50 a month. At least it's something. At least you have a house, you have food that you're eating. So because we want development and we want people to be, there to be dignity in labor, government is saying, pay everybody 70,000 naira. So maybe we can begin to cut our sizes properly. What do you think, Nima? Let me come to you.
So the realistic thing, or our reality, is that nobody enforces the Minimum Wage Act. And if it was enforced, that's when we'll be compelled to go through this. It's not enforced.
Is it enforceable?
Yes, it's enforceable.
It cannot be, are you sure it can be enforceable?
Yes, it is. Whenever it's passed, at least the old one had these sections, several sections like that puts minimum wage fine for failure to pay each day at 10,000 per day that you failed, and puts the entire monthly fine at about 75,000 naira, where there were payment consequences for when you fail to pay the minimum wage if your staff does the needful, which is rare, or NLC as a body does the needful, which is also rare. So maybe when we pass this law and we're talking of organized private sector, we're not talking of SMEs and small businesses like our own. We're talking of the multinationals. Industries. That's where, the enforcement. And even then, you don't see NLC go and picket anybody. When NLC is picketing, it's national government, federal government.
But Nima, the reason I was asking was that somebody who has a help in the house and is paying them maybe 30,000 naira, can that help? Is there somewhere that help can go and report that my boss is paying me only 30,000 naira?
I don't know if...
Wait, that's what I'm saying. So is it enforceable? Because that person...
help thinks, okay, I'd rather be out of job. Get a lawyer, resigns and takes it up. The person will be compelled to pay the fine, but what will the person do? He'll take the help back. You see, the power to hire and fire is that of the employer.
Exactly.
So there's a conflict of interest.
So it's not exactly enforceable.
Hey, that's what we're going to. That's what we're going to, because
because if it was enforceable, as we would love, no state government, we have the audacity to not enforce it up until this amendment.
Yes.
You know that 30,000 minimum wage that we were living?
Since 5 years ago.
Some governors
have still not...
they have not even paid.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing minimum wage and how companies, especially companies that have over 25 member of staff. Now, the act is very clear that when you have members of staff below 25, you are not compelled by the act to pay 70,000 naira. We understand that clearly, but we're also trying to understand Nigerians who are aspiring, because there are lots of businesses, small, medium-scale businesses, who have more than 25 members of staff, and they are being compelled now to pay 70,000 naira minimum wage. And they're also trying to sustain their business, trying to scale. So with this, there are different ways of looking at it. Is it good for their business, or is it good for the Nigerians? How are we going to do it?
So we know, I don't know how you experience. I had a family friend whose employer would not pay salaries, and he would travel. And he will travel with family, and he will owe them. And the staff will be there. One day they decided to send a bill that generator had broken down. It didn't break down. They used it to pay themselves. And it made it to the news. We're all laughing about it. Yeah. But we know businesses, when we think they're upscaling and actually they're just, living the life off of work. We know labor abuses are many. And this is where I would expect the NLC, after this act, to do the needful to ensure an enforcement. One person cannot carry fight of a multiple. You just simply let him go. The power of hire and fire, we know in labor laws, in the labor sector is sacrosanct. I can hire you, you don't do well, I fire you, you're not, I'll just find an excuse that you're not working at optimum and go. And now if I am compelled by law to have a certain amount of people, I would demand more of them, put them to work. So NLC has a lot to do to ensure that...
But before I come to NLC, let me take Mr. Ade calling from London. Good morning, Mr. Ade. Good morning, Mr. Ade. You're live.
How are you, Morayo?
Morning.
Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Very clearly now. Go ahead, okay. I can hear you.
My view on this issue is that, I think it's not fair when they say when you have staff from 25. Even though you have one staff, you should pay the staff 70,000. Because staff is staff. You understand? So I don't agree that you have to have 25 employers.
Sir.
For example, now, if you have magazine in Nigeria like Forbes that name millionaires in Nigeria, before they can count 50 millionaires or women in Nigeria, all of you will be among. How can you pay 70,000?
I claim it too.
But you have 25 staff. God has blessed all of you. So, they want 20,000. I think that's my recommendation.
How many staff do you have, sir? I just wanted to...
Mr. Ade, I was asking you a question.
Mr. Ade has gone.
The law has spoken.
So the thing is, truthfully, when a company has... If you have expectation that I want to pay all my staff minimum of 120K per person, you would, from the beginning, you will structure your business so that the revenue would cover that bill you have. Exactly. It would inform how much you will have to charge for your services. It would inform where you position your services so that you're able to get to the market. But we have people that have more than 25 staff, and most of those staff are doing menial jobs. You run a factory. Everybody is probably doing cutting, or packaging. Their jobs are small, and if you put a 70,000 naira on it, by the time you calculate your cost of production, especially because manufacturers are complaining that diesel price has gone so high that it's almost making it impossible for them to break even or make profit. You now add that because they have over 25 staff, they should be paying minimum of 70,000 naira. And once you pay minimum 7,000 naira, guess what? Manager too would have to earn more money. Maybe manager is only 150. You have to move that one to 2 something. It would trickle through the entire organization, and we're not discussing how to create the enabling environment for the businesses to thrive.
Let me call call for the clip of the Senate President when he was making the remark.
To improve, it only says that if you're a tailor and you employ additional hand, you cannot pay the person below 70,000. If you're a mother and you have a newborn child and you want to bring in a housemaid to look after your child, you cannot pay that housemaid below 70,000. It is not maximum wage. It applies to all and sundry. If you bring in a driver, if you bring in a gate man, you cannot pay that gate man below 70,000. So I'm very delighted that this has been passed, and we now look forward to employers of labor going ahead.
So what the Senate President says somewhat negates what the act is saying, that you need to have a minimum of 25 stars. So he's saying if you have a nanny,
you see this exception, I'm yet to see it.
So
this exception,
that's what I'm
yet
told.
to see.
I've gotten somebody was saying, someone sent me a copy that
I've been trying to find the act so that I see the exception.
If you have less than 25 workers, you are not liable. Let 2 lawyers the two lawyers you have as co-hosts get more information on
We are
this.
trying to, we have not seen. So
seen.
if you can send a link of the act itself so we can see
anyway,
and quote that exception. Because the old act didn't have an exception.
Let me Comrade Chidi. Oh, I'm told it's out. Yes.
Okay, I wanted to say something. So, you know, when it comes to menial labor, they are paid daily, right? Am I correct? In Nigeria. So it's not left for SMEs now to devise the different ways now when it comes to employment, right? Where if, for example, you are paying your staff 50,000 naira, now you divide that 50,000 naira into the productive days. If it's 5 days a week that your staff work, right? Prorating it to, and then you now say, now I'm not employing you as a full-time staff.
Contract staff.
You're contract staff, and then you come in daily. So the days you come in, you sign, and you get paid. Chicken, and this is the amount that I can now afford to pay you for the days you come. So people get creative in ways to go about these things. So if you want to come in and make your money fine, if you don't want to come in, so that, and most factories or whatever, this is what they'll start doing now. Like you talked about packaging and stuff. People are not going to turn them to menial laborers where the days you come in, you get paid at the end of the day.
Let me take Oloyode from Mogijo. Good morning. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Morayo.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Niva Amaka.
Good morning.
What you are discussing about this minimum wage, the fault is from the Nigerian Labour Congress. They are not doing enough. The area I live here in Ogijo here, if you come here, we have a lot of factories being operated by the Chinese and the Indians. My sisters, if you come into the factory and see what they are doing to Nigerians, you will weep. Because all of you are mothers there. I am telling you, recently in a factory very close to my place here, and a malam was cleaning the machine when they are doing overhauling. But nobody knows somebody was there. Another person went and pressed a button. The boy, the alpha man, was grounded. He died inside, he broke his head, ground him. Now, the laborers are there, the Nigerian Labour Congress are there. They are busy fighting the federal government. They don't go out to go and see what is happening. If they come out and they see this, go to the factory, they will know that, yes, Nigerians have been enslaved by the Chinese and the Indians. That is my contribution. This is what you are seeing now. You will see what.
Thank you very much, Mr. Loregwe. So I think that's part of what. So the Senate President is talking about nannies, drivers, but the real people, the focus are those companies.
Honestly,
very close to your heart.
This story just shared is very close to my heart. I had to pay hospital bill for a boy who works with a furniture company, and one of the cutters flew off. The blades flew off, went at him, cut into his hand, his laps. He was hospitalized. His employer did not show up. And when the story filtered down, my husband was like, let's clear the bills. So we just joined and did this as our sadaka. I don't see one. I see several.
Yeah.
On that same place, a boy was trying to carry, they were clearing logs from a container into the furniture house, and he fell on this boy. It was his job. We used to arrange that bone. We don't know how many like that. If you drive through Amuo, you just see those factories and you see boys, I call it cheap labor, littering the places. They usually queue up, beg to come into work daily. So that's where we need NLC.
Labor needs to focus now.
NLC is in Abuja, taking care of themselves and their family. They're not doing everything. They're not capturing labor.
Some of those companies don't allow union. They don't allow unionism within the company. So it's now a case of, for me, I was going to talk about it, that talking about an employer that is struggling to raise and build a company is not our problem. The real problem are those companies who are bent on taking advantage of our porous system. So we have a lot of foreign-owned businesses. I don't want to call the countries, but we know there are several foreign-owned businesses who employ our Nigerians as cheap labor that are used as, what do they call them, casual workers. And they do not provide any form of protection for them. There's no insurance for them, and their job is a very risky job. Those are the areas that we should be talking about more, because when these are how the capital flights, they make their money, take out their money back to their country, but who suffers? The citizens that are left behind. And that I would love for us to see. Maybe it is within NLC's reach. If it is not something NLC can speak to, we would like NLC to talk about why they have not been able to speak to this issue that has been consistent.
Go on a very short break. We'll come back with continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We have a caller holding. Good morning. Thanks for calling. You're live.
Okay, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Okay. Regarding this topic,
Yes.
It's a good one. At least now it has been passed into law that we should pay 70,000. But I think Labour needs to do more because we have here in Kenya we have a lot of companies owned by Chinese, Lebanese, Indian, and you need to see the way Nigerians are being treated. It's very sad. So I think Labour should do more. We need to go into this country and see what is happening for themselves at least and make amendments.
You know, I mean, so they have chapters across the country in the state chapters of Labour. Exactly. So what are the state chapters doing?
Let me tell you, the 2 state chapters are working. So Edo, governor obviously was already paying 70,000 before even this increment. Lagos, their own government, their own Labour chapter is working because they had their separate protests and strike, and Lagos has increased. I think minimum for their lowest level is even 70. Some of my friends that joined the Ministry of Justice started at 70. Back then, we'll talk less of now. And they've gone up and continue to increase their salary based on level. But other states, we have many states who are owing backlog of the old minimum wage.
And their labor is
they
dead.
have labor union
the difference.
And they are dormant.
They've done
Thank
nothing.
you.
But when it is national matter, they all carry themselves to Abuja and say they want to do protest.
Since we've spoken, sorry, please, Amaka. No, we've spoken about state chapters. There are states where Nigerians, underage Nigerians, are made to do casual work in illegal refineries, not refineries, illegal mines.
Yes.
And there is nobody speaking up for those as well. So the labor union isn't just about canvassing for corporate people that work within the federal government or state government. The labor union is canvassing for labor, everything that has to do with labor. And that includes employing underaged people and paying them peanuts to be at risk working in mines. So I think we should raise that as well so that those state chapters can also speak up. And it's easy to shine in Nigeria. Imagine a state labor chairman that comes out and says, I feel so bad that in our area there are some illegal miners that are using children. You will just become superstars straight up.
They are also employers. I think they all allowed this because one time we had the NLC chairman and we raised this issue of casual workers. So he said the matter was not brought to them.
Yes, I remember.
Now, there should be sensitization. That's the truth. It might not have been brought to them. Because when you go around these places, most of these workers we're talking about are over 18, but not as educated. They might not even know how to reach out to the NLC as a body. Go on.
Let me take Yakub and come to you, Amaka. Yakub, thanks for calling. You're live.
Sorry, Morayo. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Before I say something, kudos to you, Mama Baby, in person of Tope. I like your response. You are very so intelligent. Somebody complained about your clothes. Somebody like us that have been following this program for the past 10 years. I've never seen you dressing indecent. But if somebody say that, then I love your response. God bless you. Keep it up. So having said this, Morayo, you see, one thing I know is that there are going to be a retrench. People that employ workers, when the act, in fact, Sister Nima, as a lawyer, says they should give a link that brings exception. If somebody employs more than 25 workers, and then they have to say that you have to pay them 70,000 naira as a minimum wage. So if that person knew that this kind of money cannot avoid it, it will go ahead and then reduce the workers to like 20. So who is going to enforcement is another thing here. And then you say somebody that employs nanny should pay 70,000 naira. So if that person says, I can pay 70,000 naira to you as a nanny, as that nanny is leaving, another nanny is coming in. That is the truth. Yeah. Because a lot of people in this country now, they are looking for jobs. So enforcement is another way of it, because who is going to enforce it? That is the it.
All right, thank you very much, Jacob. Before I come to Amaka, just to remind you, so the National Minimum Wage Act of 2019 provided some exemptions, which somebody else, I think was the engineer Tiani sent it to me. Says the exemptions are number one, part-time basis, commission or piece rate, establishments employing less than 25 persons, workers in seasonal employment like agriculture, and any person employed in a vessel or aircraft to which laws regulating merchant shipping or civil aviation apply. these are the exemptions, but there's a possibility that the new act that was signed yesterday, approved yesterday, might have expunged this. We don't know yet. So hopefully when we get the reviewed one, we can look at it. But what we know is that usually the exemptions or the exemptions to the act of the minimum wage. Let me come to you.
Okay, so like what I was saying before, when they talk about parts employment, where people will now tell their staff that, I fire you all. If you now want to come back to work, there's now a new contract where you now have to work daily. This also makes the staff lose certain benefits. When you're a full-time employee, you have certain benefits, medical benefits, insurance, a whole lot of things, holiday packages that come with, that cushions you. But in a situation where the companies are now forced to now make sure that their staff or employees are not on part-time basis so that they can look for a way to wriggle out of this law, right? Those employees now lose every other benefit that should come with them. We need to labor. I don't know, as in whether they just stand up and they just move. But do they actually sit down and look at all the angles to this?
Before we crucify labor, we must commend labor. 30,000 to 70,000 is over 120% increase. I think they deserve a round of applause, ladies of your view.
Yeah, we'll give it to them.
Because the truth is, it is an effort. That's a huge effort. So the person who was being paid 30,000 naira is ever glad that labor stood their ground to get the 70,000 naira. So we know they can do more, we can do the better, and there's so much more within their scope to do. But this small one that they did, we acknowledge them. We acknowledge, and I think it's important we do.
Let me calculate it for you since you have missed it. So labor is mostly in the federal civil service. Yeah. They've gone to strike. They've gotten their wages, minimum wage at 70. At 70, a level 16, which is usually on the score of labor, of NLC, calculate it upwards for what he will get. You think they're fighting for everybody?
But yes.
But he still
No, just hold on a minute. You think they're fighting for everybody? I would really love to see labor fight for everybody. If you talk that time, nobody you go tell me to clap. I will clap, I will roll on the floor if I will prostrate for labor. I want to see labor where, in those days, where a single individual, labor will fight for that individual in a private company. Yeah. How dare a company come and establish in this country and refuse its staff the right to be involved in labor, and you don't call that illegitimate? And labor does not fight it to the point that a law is passed to make it illegitimate for you to establish a business here, take advantage of our free young youth workforce, and pay them rubbish and treat them anyhow, get them injured. You don't provide insurance for their health. You don't provide anything. And labor comes and says only 5 years, so we have approved minimum wage. I should come and clap. I don't have clap for labor.
Okay, let me take this call from Taiwo from Kaduna. Mrs. Taiwo, sorry for keeping you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm a fourth-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. My contribution now is a woman just called on this. Thank you. A woman just called concerning surface dressing.
Right.
Honestly speaking, there's nothing wrong with surface dressing.
Right.
I must tell you this morning that you are all well dressed.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to say something about your dress, you don't condemn people outrightly. This woman is well dressed. You don't condemn her. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taiwo. We'll come to the dressing part in a minute, because obviously people are asking and talking about it a lot on social media. So we're just going to wrap up on this minimum wage and then focus on this matter of dressing. But let's take a few comments on this.
Breaking news. Our breaking news.
On the 70,000 naira minimum
I just got my minimum wage, so me.
I hear you, Nima. There's a lot more labor should be doing.
So I can't sit and comment.
I hear you, and you have a right not to clap for them. But there are some people that are glad that at least from 30,000 to 7,000 is a considerable increase for them. However, we are demanding much more, because the state chapters must become more effective, such that they're ensuring that they are monitoring, especially those foreign-owned companies, to ensure that this 70,000 is enforced. To ensure that even Nigerian companies, some small medium-scale companies who have 25,000 to 25 people more than 25 staff, should at least pay them 70,000. It's just the enforcement.
So I chose to clap when you raised it, because I realized that the best way to get people to do more is to appreciate what they have done. So I would definitely clap to appreciate what we have achieved so far, what NLC has achieved so far, but also highlight the fact that there's a whole lot more work to be done. This is public win. But the private one is also very powerful, and many people are expecting that if they can fight this hard for 70,000 naira, they'll be able to fight.
Okay, let me take our final caller for a wrap-up. Good morning, Kenneth. You're live. Thanks for calling.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, it's good to see you this morning. I'll be your follower for more than 9 days.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Please, Joe, don't be angry. I love your response towards that. The woman is calling from Zamfara, a Muslim state, a Islamic state.
Hello? Kenneth, oh, I'm sorry. Let's wrap up. We'll come,
okay, so we have tweets on,
yes, let's take
on Tokwe as well as Labour. So
I was going to say that we'll focus on Tokwe.
I will take Labour. Ima says, casualization gives employers of Labour the right not to be responsible to his or her employee fully. Say no to casualization. Gabriel Akinsoya says, any cases of workers' abuses or accidents at workplaces in Lagos should be reported to the Lagos State Safety Commission. She's saying to me, such cases as mentioned by Nima should be reported immediately. Imonoka says, are you all surprised by the utterances of the Senate President and the position of the Senate? Did they not read the document? It took less than 24 hours to pass this bill. This is unprecedented and has become a routine for the 10th Assembly. Ogun Shegun says, either small or big businesses, if you can pay minimum wage, you can't be an employer of labor. That's how it works in the Western world. Most Nigerian employers want to make 1 million and share 100K as salary to staff.
Modupe Oluwa says, I worked with an Indian company as a fresh graduate. I know what I experienced. Even the union leader was put in their pocket. Factory workers were treated as slaves in their own country. But now, if it is in Lagos, we know what we're supposed to do. Nima took that tweet about reporting it.
Okay, that's all we can take on this segment, because the truth is that in a nutshell, I agree with the Senate President that the truth that many companies obviously have to readjust their wage for their staff. That is crucial. We also need to employ labor to do much more in monitoring and ensuring that there's enforcement and that people are paid the wage they deserve that is being approved by the law, which was signed yesterday. So it's a conversation that companies should have. It's a conversation that small business owners should begin to have. It's a conversation that employers must have with their employees, see how these things can be structured. So, but bill is a win for Nigerians, and I think it's something that we should celebrate and appreciate.